Welcome, everybody. We have the luck of having Silvia Capezzoli. She works as a senior consultant with IMA International, a training consultancy based in Brighton in the UK. Follow up, we have this session especially dedicating at this, looking at how to promote knowledge management for organizational learning. Silvia, please.
Thank you, Jorge, and hello, everyone. My interest is specifically in KM, is working with people and accompanying them through KM processes. I've been lucky enough, together with my colleague, Ruth Jolly, really had a wide experience and a wide exposure to different types of organizations. And it's really interesting seeing similar issues crop up, no matter whether you're working for a big or small NGO or for a government sector, or for private or academia, really. There's a lot of commonality. Organizational learning has been around for a long, long time. Well, at least for 20 years, but there was different interpretations. KM is really a means to an end. In other words, we're investing in knowledge management to be able to improve whatever the mandate or work of your organization is. You want to remain relevant and grow and evolve and innovate and render service. As part of that, organizations obviously need to learn internally from what's happening inside of themselves, as well as externally from others. The other point to mention is that organizations are made up of people. I mean, it sounds really obvious, but we tend to talk about organizations as things. And therefore, when we talk about organizational learning, it's almost like, oh, there's a machine out there. And what we have to think about is the people. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about these 4 things because I think they're really, really helpful. Obviously, when you're trying to promote KM, you've got to be a champion, an advocate. You have to convince others. You can't do it by yourself. You're going to need a network of supporters. And one way of really becoming an advocate is to articulate costs of not doing KM and the benefits of doing it. Different people hear different things. Some people are more likely to hear the cost, duplication and not working efficiently, working in silos, people demotivated. If you want to push the benefit, being more effective, efficient, having impact at scale, working cross-culturally and cross-sectionally, maximizing organizational links. And of course, because we said KM and learning are really about people, you've got to go and talk about this one. What's in it for me? If you can't convince someone or show someone that there's something in it for them, they won't do it. They won't take up that new tool, whatever it is you want them to do. One way of strategizing is to look at barriers, look at what's not working, what are the issues. See, these are just 5 categories. There may be other ways of classifying. Identifying what are the hurdles, what are the challenges, what are the barriers under each of these categories. You don't just dwell in that negative state. The idea is to identify the barriers to then be able to do something about them. And you may not be able to act on them all in one go. Actually, what you want to be doing is be quite good at being able to read your organizational culture and the behavior, and then identify a discussion with key people that you're working with to address a few of these key issues. You'll have to prioritize the top 2 or 3, address those, made a change there. That would really trigger change. And then identifying big actionable recommendations. Just taking you a bit further is the role of feedback. And this is really important because we're talking about feedback in its broadest sense. If we think of organizations as systems, the actions of one individual can affect the whole, and the whole can affect one individual. And what it makes you realize is the importance of real-time, live feedback, what we call the supply and demand dynamic, and bringing that demand and supply together in a facilitated way. It's just thinking about existing opportunities for learning and sharing. The formal mechanisms and structures that you have, your project cycles, your work streams, the way your teams operate, the informal life. What are the opportunities for learning that already exist? You may not call them opportunities for learning. You may not even think of them in that way, but they actually are, because they're bringing people together in some way and they're opening a space. How can we really leverage them and make the most of it? And this links back to, so there's different ways of strategizing, whether you develop a KM strategy on paper, a document or not, and bringing in that learning, which is always there, which is foundational, obviously, because without that, we don't move forward. But what we'll do now is we'll move into rooms. Should I put the questions up?
Oh, thanks very much, Silvia. Building on this, what we're going to be doing is we're going to split ourselves into separate groups, 2 consecutive rounds where you will be with different persons. Would like you to think about the challenges you are facing when promoting knowledge management within your organization. And then we would like you to think about the opportunities that already exist, which are I think we had 2 very nice groups of discussions with a lot of ideas popping up. I would like everybody to think a little bit, what have you heard from whom that really impressed you? Silvia.
Srividya and Yemisi were talking about how, in fact, it's quite strategic not to use the words KM. Link it to MEL, you link it to quality assurance, you use the word learning. It's all about knowing your own organizational context and the language that's going to work for you. That was also linked to funders. You put in a proposal and you put KM, you're not going to get the budget line for it. But if you swap it for for the word learning, suddenly there might be a bit more money. And Peter was making really interesting points about how you'll see those people who are KM champions. It's the way they operate on a day-to-day basis. It's the way that they're proactive, the way they share, the way they work, basically, their work ethic. So those are the people that you can gather around you.
The importance of really reflecting together.
That people do agree with knowledge management being important, but when it comes to investing in it, buy-in to demonstrate the value.
She identified a task which is important for the organization and brought people together around to then make that as a learning. And that was the way that she was able to also demonstrate the value of knowledge management and internal knowledge sharing.
Thank you very much, Silvia, for your very interesting presentation. Thank you. And thanks everybody for joining and for sharing your ideas.
Thank you.
Thank you.